Let's look at using lists inside of Python. Now, a list in Python is similar to an array in other languages. How we use them and how they work are very similar in a lot of cases too. For example, on line 2, we see an example of a list, which is my num and a series of numbers after it. Each element or unique item inside my list is separated with a comma, and the list itself is enclosed within square brackets. This is pretty common in most array languages. However, Python gives us some other opportunities, such as a list is mutable and therefore can be changed during the runtime of our application. While a lot of programming languages allow you to change individual elements, Python will allow you to add and remove elements from a list. Not every language will allow you to do the same. Now, lists are not limited to numbers. As you can see on line 3, we have a list of strings. And on line 4, we have a list of both numbers and strings. Many languages require an array all have the exact same data type. But in a list with Python, you can mix data types pretty easily. If you use the print command as you see below, you get a chance to print out the contents of our list. Let's take a look at what happens when we print out the contents of our list by running our file. Notice that we get the whole list, including the comma to separate out the elements and even the square brackets. This is how Python's going to allow you to print out a list. It's very simple and doesn't give you a lot of functionality. In fact, some people may look at it and go, well, is this just like a string and just print out the whole thing? And in the way we print it out, it does kind of seem like that. So let's look at some other examples of how we can create lists and access the individual elements. That will show the true power of a list in Python. In this file, we're looking at how we're creating a list without any elements. First, we have my range, which is a list, and notice we're using the keyword list here, and we're specifying a range of 5. That means to create a list with 5 elements. That's one way of doing this. I also have a list called data, and notice I create a list with just a single element, but then I multiply it times 10. What this is going to do is it's going to add 10 elements to my data list. All of them are going to have the same value, 1. In data 2, I have a list of 3 elements. I multiply it times 3. That multiplication process is going to repeat my list elements, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we can see this in our print commands. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. We're going to run list 2. And notice I have my elements. My very first list, which I did not give a specification because I gave a range, automatically created 5 elements, starting at element 0. My second list, data, has 10 ones in it. And my third list, data 2, has the list 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because that initial list was multiplied by 3. So it allows us to expand our list. So we can do more than just create a simple list. We can do some basic elements like this with it. However, we're still looking at that whole list so far. Let's take a short detour and look at an individual element. So here I create my range, and it's a list of 5 elements, 0 through 4, just like we saw before. We're creating an index of 1, and we're getting a size of our range. Now, the way we're doing that is we're using the len command, and the len command is going to get the number of elements inside of my list. Now I have a for loop for value in my range. This is going to allow us to iterate over our list and access each individual element. Notice that when we do this, we're going to get a chance to see and use this value in our print statement. We're also using the value of our index as well as the size of our overall list. So let's run this real quick. So we're going to run list3.py. And now instead of seeing the whole list, we see each element being individually accessed. We could do other things with this. We could print it out. We could run some multiplication on it. We could do anything that we needed to based upon the elements of a list, assuming it's the right data type to be able to do that. So our previous example, we looked at our list with just numbers. And you might think, well, that's kind of convenient. So let's look at something a little bit different. Almost the exact same program, except my range has now been replaced with strings instead of numbers. I have 4 people's names here, and everything else is the same. So let's run this to see how it's going to look in comparison with our previous example. So here we can see the output of list 3, which is our previous example. And now we're going to run list 4. Notice that each element, the name of a person, is individually listed inside of our list by using that for loop. So that's how we can kind of simply create and start working with lists. We're going to look at some other examples in the future that show you the real power of working with lists in Python.